Hello, everyone. I'm Laura McDermott, the Executive Director of the Laramie Public Art Coalition here in Laramie, Wyoming. And I am so excited to introduce this artist interview with artist team Owens and Crawley out of Indianapolis, Indiana. Owens and Crawley are known for their large scale sculptures that often incorporate light and color to really dramatic and incredible results. And this artist team, consisting of Luke Crawley and Quincy Owens, was commissioned to do a project for the Albany County Courthouse North entrance. And their project is called Current, which references the Laramie watershed and the Laramie River systems. And they were chosen through a selection process starting in spring of 2021. And the selection committee, who is made up of community members, just like you, and people who are most influenced by the project, people who will be seeing the work maybe every day, and also members of our artist community were on this committee. And they sifted through the applications of artists from across the country to create a work for this space. And Owens and Crawley were one of 4 finalists to do a proposal for the design of an artwork for the front entrance. And they were selected because their design really spoke to the community as it referenced the water here in Laramie. And so Owens and Crawley came for a visit in September of 2021, where we went and toured with geologists and with a water enthusiast, and they really got a taste of Laramie and our region, which really continued to inspire the work that they're bringing to Laramie now. So I'm really excited for us to listen in on their interview and the inspiration behind this work. So I'll turn it over to Ann McCutchan, who is a celebrated writer, musician, and LPAC board member, to interview Luke and Quincy.
Thank you so much for making time for us today. I'm really thrilled about your work and about speaking with you. What you do, I love, and I'm very interested in how you do it and why. I'm sure that the community will enjoy watching the interview and hearing what you have to say and putting it together with the new piece. For residents who really aren't familiar with what site-specific work is, public art, yes, it's there for us to see, but how is site-specific work different, or what are its features?
So when a community wants a work of public art, we find the most beneficial, the most interesting work, the piece that they're going to take the most ownership of and find the most value in, has to be something that speaks to that community. And so in the design process, we try to design it specifically for the site, for that community, take things that are important to that community, and that can be a wide variety of topics. That's what makes it kind of interesting, between geology, the people, its history, architecture, the culture, some aspect that can be incorporated into the concept and represented visually that gives it a little bit more meaning for that community. So for example, this piece would not work in any other city, and we wouldn't put it in any other city. Like, it was designed for Laramie with the hopes that then they would, it adds that another layer of impactfulness for the people in Laramie.
That's a very good answer. Thank you, and very clear. Can you describe in words the experience of that one will have approaching it and then coming into the lobby?
I mean, that's a tough one because it's the courthouse. I'm thinking some people will have a terrible experience with it because they're at the courthouse for a negative reason.
I know.
But then there'll be like people that are showing up to pay their annual taxes or whatever. It's going to be a pretty stunning piece. We were really both intrigued by just the neutral earth tones of all of the stone accents from the building, since they kept the original facade. And we decided we either go with that palette or we put something together that just screams, look at me, because it has this subtle background behind it. So we decided to go, because Luke likes blues, to go with something that really pops in the space.
Wonderful.
My favorite critics are kids. So I would love to hear, after we've installed this for 2 or 3 months, if the kids like it. And if the kids like it, in my opinion, that's all that matters. And I think they'll love it. I think once all of the boulders, like we just got the sculpture back, they're literally putting plastics in it right now as we speak. Colored shadows are going to come through the boulder forms. It'll be, I think it'll be quite stunning.
I can't wait. Anything to add?
Yeah, I can't wait to see it in the space. Everything always looks different in here, and then we get to the site and put it up. It really kind of comes together, especially once the plastics get put in the boulder formations, and we've got lights shining down through them, and should be a lot of interesting things to observe for sure. Not just the immediate physical form, but all of the shadow play, all of the lines in conjunction with the painting in the back, and just the overall feel of the courthouse lobby. Should be some very interesting things to draw the viewer into.
You came to Laramie to look around and see what we have, what's here, what the terrain is like. And I wondered if you might speak to that trip and how you came up with the idea for the work for the courthouse.
We didn't know one of the perks of starting to do public art years ago was the travel benefits. And so we really both wanted to go to Laramie, Wyoming. Neither one of us spent any real time there. We did show up for the site visit and the tour, and I'll put a plug in for Laura. She was fantastic. But then she has this 5-day itinerary of all this stuff to do, and we're like, well, why are we doing all this itinerary stuff? And like each visit we go on just makes it more relevant as to why we were picked, because of all of these different specialists in different fields talking about, well, first of all, there's the ownership and the pride of being above this watershed. Yes. And how impactful it is for so many other people, at least on the western side of the United States.
One of the most impactful things that I think to me when we were out there was the visit with the geologist, and was really showing us some of the striations and how you could tell what it used to be millions or eons ago, completely underwater. And she was talking about finding dinosaur fossils and all sorts of fascinating things that we're not really used to. She's very nonchalant about discovering dinosaur bones, and I thought that was pretty amazing and pretty fun.
I think it's the day that Luke was talking about when we were in the used to be the seabed with the geologist. I looked at Laura, I was like, well, we kind of accidentally hit this one right on the head, didn't we? And she just looked at me and smiled, and she's like, you sure did.
The geology out there, for me at least, is more evident than the geology here in Indiana, and it's certainly more interesting, or at least interesting in a different way. All of the vegetation and the fauna were completely different than what we're used to seeing on a regular basis. And that was pretty fascinating.
Yeah, it's all on show here, right? You can dig up a lot of stuff, but the variety is really amazing. I felt that too first coming out here. You were chosen. You took a visit out here, and then how did the actual installation evolve? How do you sit down, you both have ideas, you throw them on the table, do you brainstorm, do you go off in separate rooms and come up with stuff and throw them together? How did this particular configuration come about?
Typically on a lot of our things, we kind of each bring a little something to the table, and that tends to inform the other, and it just sort of bounces back and forth throughout the design process. In terms of like aesthetic design, Quincy is definitely the more trained kind of. He's really good at color theory and coming up with palettes, and influences the aesthetic a little bit more, I would say.
We complement each other really well in a number of ways, and I would say like the design of a piece, I can have pie in the sky ideas, and Luke can be like, well, that's great, but that's not practical. Or he can push me to be like, well, why aren't we doing this instead? Like, we've done something like this before. So he does, we bounce off of each other in a lot of different ways, including like design versus feasibility, I guess I would call it.
Whenever we can, we try to include some sort of new technique or material or sort of fabrication method to kind of challenge and push us. And so one of the things that kind of went hand in hand with the watershed theme was let's throw in some curves to this one. A lot of our stuff is very angular and geometric, and so on this one we wanted to do the curvy metal, sort of mimicking a jet stream or a current stream, or current water flowing. And I kind of evolved from there. And
that appears to be a departure from some of the work I've seen of yours online. Is there anything else about this piece, this installation, that is different, departure for you from previous work?
Sure. This is going to be our first sort of main interior lobby piece. And it had to it's a very interesting site to design for, and it's it's going to be mounted partially on a railing and then another side wall that comes out. So just the physical site itself, in terms of hanging the piece and mounting it up to the wall, is different than what we've done previously, which has been more traditionally like kind of mounting it to a pedestal or a concrete foundation or something similar.
Any more thoughts on how your previous work leads up to this?
New concept, new material, new technique. This project gave us the courage to bend metal. We've been fortunate. We've had a couple of kind of personal goals, career changing sculptures before. We think this is one of them. We've had a couple sculptures where when we were done with them, we're like, well, what can't we not do now? Now we're bending and curving metal. We have new tools, new fabrication techniques. So selfishly, as creative artists, we want as many options as possible for when we have a creative idea that comes to mind. The worst thing that can happen is that you have to squelch your own idea because you don't have the means or the technology or the know-how to create that idea. So it's just, real people come to our fabrication studio and they're like, well, this is just like Santa's little workshop, isn't it? And we're like, it really is. We can make just about whatever we want to. So we really, we always joke that we're the most limited options in our shop. It's up to us to come up with the good ideas because all of the tools are there. It's up to our creativity to come up with great ideas that then, with the help of all of our tools, we can then create. Luke met me when I was predominantly a painter, like a gallery-based abstract artist. And so I told Luke, I was like, well, let's sweeten this deal. Why don't we do a collaborative painting for the courthouse lobby as well? Because like Luke was saying, it was such an interesting, almost completely wide open space for us to figure out creatively what to do wherever we wanted to do, and then hope that the jury pool liked what we decided to do. So it's like, there's walls, there's some ceiling possibilities, there's this railing, there's wall below the railing. So it was a wide open canvas, which made for honestly a really challenging creative solution to try to fill the space. So we were really pleased with what we came up with just for the main sculptural piece, but then also that we've been getting to work on a painting together at our painting studio as well has been fun. Kind of a neat way to, this many years later, we get to collaborate in yet another new way. One of the main reasons that Luke and I started collaborating along the art and science boundaries years ago is he's also a musician and a sound composer. So there's a sound piece that will also be available digitally with this work as well.
Had no idea. Will that be broadcast? It'd be a sound component that you experience as you walk into the courthouse, or it's a separate piece?
It'd be a separate piece. There'll be like a QR code that you can scan to stream it live while you're in there. Sometimes playing those audio pieces live acoustically can kind of drive the person who works at the front desk insane. So
when we were out and did our site visit, everywhere that we went and toured, Luke was taking sound samples to turn into some kind of a composition.
Oh, I can't wait to hear it. That's kind of you know, a part of my artistic world as well. So I appreciate it. Something occurred to me as you were just speaking about fabricating things and what's practical and what costs or doesn't cost. And I think many people who view public art don't new art comes in from someplace not here and it appears. And so can you tell us a little bit about how the strategies for moving big work, you know, across states and installing it?
Creating indoor gallery work is a whole different ballgame than coming up with something for public art because of budgets and durability, and you just can't do exactly what you can't just paint anything on a canvas like you could for gallery based work. And part of that is the transportation and shipping, and we've gotten a little bit wiser over the years. So part of that design challenge is also, well, can we physically make this? Will it physically fit out the door of the shop? Is there a truck big enough? If we make this 8.5 feet wide, it's too wide for a trailer, so we've got to make it 8 feet wide. And so there's those considerations come into play. Thankfully, for this one, we're mindful of scale, and so it ends up fitting inside of a box truck that we can then ship out there. But you kind of have to plan the sculpture around those logistics and keep those in mind. Otherwise, you can really, really put yourself in a tough spot with, you know, with whatever budget you're working under.
Right.
Yeah, you can definitely watch a budget disappear overnight. For instance, with this job, I'm going to be driving a box truck out. That's just going to be a rental box truck, especially, you know, when we have a design that has to pay for a professional transporter, you know, that's thousands and thousands of dollars. We'll need a rigger for some of this job, but not to the extent of other jobs. So those are all things that, of course, unfortunately, like most things in life, we've had to learn the hard way first. But because we have learned the hard way, we've remembered our own self-scoldings and are trying to do better and make our budgets work, not only to the design of the artworks benefit, but also so that we make a little bit of money doing what we're doing on a good day as well.
Do you know what's next? Or you probably have another project that you're beginning to think about?
We're pretty lucky this year. We have several upcoming projects. We actually have a sculpture we're just getting ready to start that's going to be in Thornton, Colorado. That's a suburb of Denver, Colorado.
Sure.
We have lots of more local fabrication jobs. It's been it's a phrase I never heard, but speaks to the musicians world. Like local musicians wonder why they never get big, and it's not until they start doing shows like 50 miles away from where their home base is.
Right.
So because we've started doing a lot more national jobs, this upcoming year, we have a good handful of large scale Indiana region jobs as well. So I think that the folks in the Midwest have been like, oh gosh, these guys are pretty good. Why are we making them drive all the way out to Wyoming to install sculptures? We should have them as well.
Good. I know you're never appreciated in your hometown until you go far away, and then then you are a big
exactly. Luke and I have an exhibition January 6th, I think, that it opens. So any day after that, we'll load this thing in a truck and bring it out to you guys.
We'll all want to be serving on jury duty just to get in there, right?
For the first time in your life, you can't wait to get that letter in the mail.
Okay, I can't wait. It's going to be great.
Luke, say goodbye.
Thank you.
All right.